Constantine. The prisoner is awake and ready for questioning. I'm on my way.
What it do, everybody? This is Emmett Watkins Jr. and I just want to get on here for a split second to talk about the new Tomb Raider movie. Just got back not too long ago from seeing it, and I actually liked it quite a bit more than I thought I would. So I just want to talk about it a little bit. Of course, we will go ahead and have the first part of the video be spoiler free, my general thoughts on the film, and then the back half I kind of want to get into it just a little bit, and in that second half I'm not only going to spoil the movie a little bit, I think I might also spoil some of the games. So if you didn't play the Tomb Raider reboot from 2013 or Rise of the Tomb Raider, viewer discretion is advised, but I'll give heads up if I spoil the games beforehand so you guys can, get a second to cover your ears real quick. So what did I think about this Tomb Raider film? Like I said, I liked it quite a bit more than I thought I would. I was seeing, critics and, just people on the internet talking about the film leading up to it, and I quickly noticed a divide in the thoughts on the film. If you were a fan of the franchise, if you played the recent games, then those people tend to come out of the film liking it a lot more. And then I noticed that a lot of these critics who are only people who watch movies and have not tried any of the games, or maybe haven't even heard of them. I don't know if that's the case, but I feel like that has to be the case in some of these reviews. A lot of people who aren't familiar with the games, they tend to think the film wasn't that good. They claim it's generic. I've seen claims that it does nothing new and all this other stuff. And while those criticisms I could see being on point, I feel like your expectations are set a little bit better if you're already familiar with what the games are. Because if your expectations are set there, then the movie has a lot more room to kind of surprise you. And that's definitely what I liked about this movie. It was very surprising in many parts. Because I know the plot of the original 2013 game, and of course Rise of the Tomb Raider as well, and they incorporate some aspects from Rise of the Tomb Raider into this movie as well, and even if this is an origin story that is more closely tied to the plot of the original 2013 reboot. So yeah, the film is great. I found the film to be great, like I said, because I've played these games. I know a little bit more about the backstory, so they can do more to change it up and switch it up in my eyes. It's a lot. I compare this feeling to when I saw Spider-Man Homecoming. Now I don't want to go out of my way to spoil Spider-Man Homecoming, even though I feel like that is up for grabs for spoilers, but Spider-Man Homecoming took me by surprise so much because it did a lot of stuff different. It did so many things different. They didn't even say the words Uncle Ben throughout that entire film, even though we've seen Uncle Ben get shot on film twice now. We've seen the formula, we've seen the setup for Spider-Man, we've seen so much about Spider-Man, we know what he is, and he's been in hundreds and hundreds of comics at this point as well. So when Homecoming came out, at least from a film perspective, it did a lot of new things. It didn't tell you the whole setup of how he got his powers and everything. It didn't have to kill Uncle Ben on screen again. It started you from a good place, and it did a lot of interesting things with the character that I didn't quite expect. And it messed with that whole, I guess, mythology of Spider-Man. Tomb Raider does a lot of the same stuff. If you are familiar with the mythology of Lara Croft, there are certain pillars in her tale that do not move, that are not ever changed. In this film, they mess with that a little bit. They mess with that a lot of bit. About halfway through the movie, there's a pretty sizable twist that I personally did not see coming, and I don't think many people are going to see coming. I don't know if they really tried to telegraph it that much in the film. Maybe just a little bit now that I'm thinking about some elements of the first few minutes, but yeah, there's a plot twist towards the middle of the movie that completely changes the dynamic, and I did not expect that at all. So I thought that was very cool, and the film has a couple of nods to the games as well. Certain weapons that she uses, and You know, her outfit is almost ripped straight from the game and everything like that. So certain little nods like that. The action scenes are pretty cool. They have a pretty neat twist at the very end of the film where I'm not spoiling anything. They basically say that, you know, you're leading up to something and you keep thinking it's going to be this one thing, and then at every turn it keeps telling you, oh, it's not that thing, oh, it's not that thing, oh, it's not that thing, and at the very end something happens. And it's interesting in the way it happens because you keep thinking that it just plays with your expectations in a slightly different way, and you expect it to go all out in one direction, but it kind of cuts it down the middle a little bit, which I really appreciated, especially as someone who at the end of certain Tomb Raider games, not even just the rebooted series, at the end of some of those, things get buck wild and crazy. And the film didn't quite go that far with it, which I thought was very cool. It showed a little bit of restraint, and I thought that was pretty neat. So it wasn't, you know, just completely out of left field. So definitely an aspect I enjoyed. So overall, I really like the film. There's some pretty well acted scenes in this movie as well. The villain is not completely two-dimensional. He does have motivations outside of, you know, just being evil. He has motivations outside of just being evil. He's ruthless because he wants to get the hell off this island and he wants to go see his family and stuff, which is not a spoiler. I just thought that aspect was really good. Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, she is outstanding. I'm not gonna say this is a tour de force as far as acting goes, because, you know, ultimately this isn't an action film, and, you know, this isn't gonna win her another Oscar by any means, but she had fun with the role. It was fun watching her. A lot of side characters were pretty good. The ship captain, though he was, you know, didn't get much screen time, he was interesting to watch. The trailers show, I want to say his name is Nick Frost. I'm not entirely familiar with him, but I know he's in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead and some other stuff. They play him up as being a part of the movie. He's not that major of a part, if I'm being honest. Not that the movie felt empty without him or anything, but, you know, don't go in thinking this movie's gonna have him multiple times throughout it. And I really did like how it was an origin story in, like, the most direct of ways. There are things that, especially from the older games and the older movies even, there are certain things about Lara Croft that you just know for a complete 100% certain fact, and those things don't really get established until the very end of the film. And I thought that was a really cool twist on it, and they even set this movie up for a sequel, which, you know, you got to do with all these movies now. Everything has to be, you know, franchised, which I don't really mind. I enjoyed this film, and I think I'm certain to enjoy whatever comes out of this next. And can't wait to see how Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a trailer that played right before this movie, that's the new game coming out in fall. Can't wait to see where that goes with the story as well, because I did realize as I was watching this film, I'm actually pretty invested in this Tomb Raider lore and storyline. So I'm very excited to see where they go, not just in the movie but in the games. And yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed. Now I will say, if you are not a Tomb Raider fan, if you did not play the games, don't know if there's going to be too much here for you. It's that classic, you know, tomb raiding, adventuring type of setting and theme and just movie in general. So there are some cool nods to, you know, certain things, but a lot of the things that I appreciated about this film are things that I only appreciated because it either was a direct callback to the games or it was deliberately different from the games in a certain way. So mainly this film is for you if you have played the games. So with that being said, overall loved the movie, but mainly loved it because I played the game. So if you haven't played the games, don't expect the world, but if you have played the games, you're in for a pretty good treat. And now this is the section where we're going to talk about the movie in a little bit deeper detail. We're going to, you know, get a little bit into the games as well. So at this mark right here, we're going to start talking about spoilers for the film, and then I'll give you another specific heads up if I talk about a game spoiler. So let's get into it. This movie was really good because it had really big changes from the games, like I said. The biggest change has to be, of course, she gets to the island. She, is looking for whatever her dad was looking for. Turns out her dad is alive. Crazy, right? And so half the movie, she's just palling around with her father. For the whole, not even last third, almost full on half of the movie is her and her father adventuring through these tombs, and it is something I did not expect them to be doing. I totally thought it was about to be a dream sequence. I thought she was going to wake up, but no, her father was alive all these years. 7 years they stayed in the movie, and he's actually a major part. He's not just a flashback, and I thought that was a really daring thing to do. And they set it up that he's been dead for a long time, not just in the promotional materials and at the beginning of the film, but even when she gets to the island, they're still sticking to the story of him being dead. And with that fisherman's father also being dead, they kind of, they make you believe it, and then they just pull the rug out from under you. So I thought that was really amazing. The certain nods that I mentioned too from the games, of course, the bow and arrow that she wields prominently in those games. That is her weapon of choice in this film, and I thought that was a really cool callback. And also the ice pick comes into heavier use towards the end of the film, and I thought that was a really cool nod as well. And then at the very end, how the aspects that I said of Tomb Raider of Lara Croft that you don't really see until the very end. If you think back to the older games and even the older movies with Angelina Jolie, those movies featured those dual-wielding pistols very prominently. Those are two pistols that she doesn't do anything with. She doesn't even shoot a gun throughout this film. But at the very end of the film, she purchases those two classic silver ballers. I don't think those are what the guns are called in the game. I think that's a Hitman thing, but we're ignoring that. So yeah, she does purchase these weapons at the very end of the film, and it's like a very empowering moment. And then by the end of the film, once she gets on the island, she's got her hair in that classic braid from the games. She's got that leather jacket, very reminiscent of the PS2 era of Tomb Raider games. It was very cool to see her, grab her independence a little bit, and she got closer from her father because she got to speak to him once he was alive and things. And then the twist at the end where, throughout the film, her father is just dead set on this tomb that they're opening, containing something deadly, containing something world-ending. And you keep expecting some big explosion, some big supernatural twist. But at the very end of it, it just ends up being a virus, which I thought was a really interesting way to do it. Because if you remember from the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot, which I'm about to spoil right now, if you haven't played Tomb Raider 2013, skip the next few seconds. So yeah, at the end of that game, things go completely supernatural. There's you're shooting at a mystic spirit by that point, and things just get insane. And at the end of Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I'm about to spoil right now, so if you haven't played Rise of the Tomb Raider, watch out. At the end of that game, you got these damn near immortal soldiers and everything, and you find a whole lost city. So I was expecting something on that level at the end, but no, they kept it grounded. They just the mummy was the host of a virus, a pretty freaky, vaguely supernatural virus, but it was a virus at the end, and it's something still kind of out there, but substantially more plausible than these other two scenarios I presented from the end of the other games. So I was really impressed that that's where they went with it, and I thought it was really cool. And I also think with this whole more grounded tone, I think that twist fell in line with the more grounded tone of the more recent Tomb Raider games way better. Because in those other two games, once you get to those things just get crazy, and you're like, alright, we're going through this. It feels a lot like, Uncharted 1, where you find effectively Nazi zombies at the end, and Uncharted 2, where you're effectively shooting these nearly invulnerable blue people that are just what the hell is this? And Uncharted 3 kind of switches it up because, you drink your poison, which is the thing that leads you to seeing supernatural sights, so it's not anything actually supernatural. So, and then 4, they get away from it entirely. Excuse me on that, sorry. So yeah. Oh man. You know what? There was a spider on my wall, and I was just looking at him because I was ready to kill him as soon as this commentary was over, because I just wanted to finish the commentary before I, stopped it to kill the spider. And then I sneezed and I looked back up and now the spider's gone, and he was sitting in one spot this entire time, and the 1 second I look away he's gone. So now I'm gonna be up all night thinking about this spider. But anywho, yeah, Tomb Raider, very restrained, very grounded, even though it is still a somewhat cheesy action flick. It was very grounded for what it was, and I appreciated that, especially in the way of a Tomb Raider. We're not opening fucking Pandora's box again like in the second Tomb Raider movie. But yeah, I was just impressed by how much I enjoyed this. Like I said earlier in the video, if you are a fan of the games, this is a movie for you. This is a movie that you're going to want to see. Or even if you don't want to see, this is a movie that will play best to you, since you have a deep familiarity with the Tomb Raider franchise. But if you haven't played any of the games, haven't watched any of the movies, I can't say that there's too much here for you. It's still a competent film. It's still an entertaining film, thoroughly. Oh, and one other thing I want to say, they have light puzzles in it. There was a color puzzle, and I was like, holy shit, it's a color puzzle, just like in the games. That's dope. Anyway, so yeah, if you don't have thorough knowledge or familiarity with the Tomb Raider franchise up to this point, I can't say that the film's too extraordinary. It's still a competent action film. It's still, it's got a little bit of humor here, a little bit of really good set pieces as well. Some of the set pieces taken right out of the game. So I really dug. There's a lot to dig about this movie, but ultimately I recognize that a lot of the reasons I like it is because I'm a fan of the franchise already at this point. So they've already, I was already interested in this movie. I'm already sold. All I can hope is that, because I want to see a sequel for this, because they do set it up pretty well for a sequel. It seems like they're going to go deeper into what Trinity is, a similar angle that they're taking for Rise of the Tomb Raider, something that they talk about in the after credit scene of that game. But yeah, I just can't wait to see what else they do with it. I really worry that because I feel this film plays best to the people who played the games and are familiar with the franchise, I hope that, general audiences go out and see this. Theater wasn't too packed when I was in there too, so I'm a little bit worried, but I've seen on Twitter that it's doing pretty well internationally, so all we can do is hope and pray that things work out. But yeah, without further ado, this has been my thoughts on Tomb Raider, and I'll see y'all next time around for Shadow of the Tomb Raider this fall. Can't wait for that to come out, and hopefully a new movie in the future. So this has been Emmett Watkins Jr. Keep it real, keep it trill.